Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we're diving into some truly fascinating source material by an author named Zhu Feng. It promises to reveal what might just be the absolute ultimate predictor of a successful life. And spoiler alert here, it literally has nothing to do with how much money you make, who you know, or where you were born. Instead, it asks us to look much, much deeper into how we process the world around us on a daily basis.
So let's just cut right to the chase and ask the ultimate question. What is the single core factor that determines whether your life is going to be smooth sailing or just deeply turbulent? I mean, think about it. Why do some people seem to effortlessly thrive and dodge obstacles with total ease, while others are just constantly struggling, especially in our incredibly chaotic world right now? We often blame bad luck or our circumstances, but the source material suggests we are looking in the completely wrong place. To explain this, the source introduces this absolutely beautiful philosophical metaphor. Zhu Feng writes, "I mainly study the books without words, natural phenomena, and social changes. Reading people is like reading books without words." And honestly, when you stop to really think about that, it makes perfect sense. Every interaction you have, every social shift, every little behavior a person exhibits, it all tells a story if we just pay close enough attention. By observing the world and people like this, the author uncovers a hidden, fundamental rule of existence that shapes our personal realities.
Here's the real kicker from those observations. It's a stark contrast in how we approach the world. The text argues that external circumstances don't actually bring us peace or turmoil. Actually, scratch that. It goes a step further. It says internal clarity is the sole dictator of our reality. Clear, organized thinking paves the way for a smooth life, or even what the author describes as a heavenly realm. When your mind is structured, your path forward is just unobstructed. But on the flip side, confused, muddled thinking leads directly to constant turbulence and chaos. Basically, it's the inner static that creates the outer friction. Now, what's super interesting here is how the text completely tosses out all those external markers society usually relies on to predict a person's future. We're talking about wealth, social status, physical attributes like your facial features, or even traditional concepts like Bazi, which, if you don't know, is a Chinese astrological practice that maps out a supposedly predestined life path using your exact birth time. The source argues all of these are false predictors. They're just distractions that keep us from focusing on the one actual thing that shapes our destiny. So, instead of checking horoscopes or peeking at bank accounts, we learned that if you really want to know where someone is headed, you just evaluate their state of mind. If a person's thoughts constantly fluctuate, like if they're uncertain, easily swayed, and just lack a solid core foundation, their future is inevitably going to be a bumpy mix of success and failure. There's just no steady foundation to build on. And if their thoughts are completely muddled, well, that guarantees turmoil. It's a direct, inescapable cause and effect. A chaotic mind simply cannot manufacture a peaceful life. And this principle doesn't just stop at individuals going about their daily routines. No way. It scales up to the absolute highest levels of society. The destiny of an entire nation relies entirely on the clarity of its citizens and, obviously, its leadership. Clear, forward-thinking leadership naturally points towards prosperity, growth, and collective success. Conversely, unclear, reactive thinking at the top guarantees societal chaos, economic turmoil, and widespread confusion for everyone else. The rule applies whether you're managing a household or an entire country. The author then challenges us to actually test this theory out in the real world. Let's do it right now. Think of an elderly person you know, maybe a grandparent or a mentor, someone whose life has been incredibly smooth and peaceful. Just picture them in your head for a second. The source posits that a long, smooth life is always, without a doubt, paired with a highly organized mind. If you look closely, you'll see it for sure. If their life was smooth, their thinking was remarkably clear. If their life was chaotic and full of drama, their thoughts were too.
To ground this a bit more, the text gives us this great mini case study of a high-ranking official. Imagine this person who steadily advances in their career, accumulating all this wealth and influence for 10 solid years. On paper, they look totally unstoppable. But then, driven by unclear thoughts and this false sense of invincibility, they start acting with impunity. They start bending the rules, they commit a crime. And ultimately, they end up imprisoned, assets confiscated, reputation ruined. Their whole version of success completely collapses overnight. So we really have to ask ourselves, was that official's downfall just a sudden stroke of bad luck, or was it the inevitable result of a confused mind?
The source argues it is absolutely the latter. The official falsely believed that power meant he could just do whatever he wanted without any consequences. This perfectly highlights how what we usually label as short-term greed or arrogance is actually just a symptom of severe mental confusion. He was fundamentally unclear about the long-term realities of his actions, and reality eventually caught up with him. Let's bring this down to a highly relatable level for a second. Think about the last time you read a super disorganized, rambling article online. You know the type. The writing lacks focus, it jumps all over the place, and it's just full of logical loopholes. That disjointed output means the author's internal thinking is deeply, deeply unclear. And according to the source, someone who writes like this, who processes information like this, will inevitably lead themselves and anyone foolish enough to follow them into a lot of trouble and a very rough, bumpy life. And it's not just about what we write or say either. It bleeds right into our physical world. The text links our physical spaces directly to our mental states, and the correlations are fascinating. Got a messy yard or an unmade bed? That equals unclear thinking. Dishes piled up in the sink week after week? That reflects a fundamentally disordered mind. Garbage scattered everywhere translates directly to a chaotic life. The source argues that a messy bedroom isn't just a boring chore you've been putting off. It's a direct, undeniable symptom of a chaotic mind, projecting its inner state out into reality. Okay, so all of this brings us to the climax of this explainer. If a clear mind is the absolute key to a good life, how in the world do we actually cultivate this life-saving clarity of thought amidst all the noise and chaos around us? The source acknowledges this is a massive question, noting that true clarity involves some really deep, complex concepts like our core worldview, our faith, and even past merits, which in this context means the accumulated karma or positive actions we've built up over our lifetime. But thankfully, the author doesn't just leave us hanging with high-level philosophy. The text actually pivots to give us 4 highly actionable, everyday steps to start building this clarity right now. Number 1, read more books. Absorbing new mental models helps restructure your own brain. Number 2, travel more. You gotta physically break out of your routine bubble and challenge your assumptions. Number 3, observe more. Really take the time to watch how people and systems operate. And number 4, engage in deeper contemplation. By expanding our inputs and really taking the time to process our experiences, we can start meticulously organizing our thoughts and understanding the world with so much more precision. But wait, because the final, absolute, most powerful technique revealed in the text takes this a whole step further. It's about the deliberate manipulation of your time horizon. If you want the ultimate way to instantly dissolve short-term confusion and anxiety, the answer is to extend the scope of your thoughts as far as humanly possible into the distant future. It's about shifting your perspective so dramatically that all the immediate day-to-day turbulence simply fades away. Imagine mapping out your mental energy on a timeline. If you're only thinking 1 year ahead, you're left with these scattered short-term thoughts. You easily lose sight of the big picture and obsess over minor setbacks. But expand that to 10 years, your focus naturally grows as you plan for deeper life goals. 100 years, you start developing a deep, historical understanding of your place in the world. And extending your thoughts 10,000 years into the future, that massive perspective brings absolute, crystal clear focus and profound peace. Short-term thinking traps you in confusion. Long-term thinking liberates you into clarity. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a provocative question to challenge how you navigate your own internal book without words. What is your time horizon right now? And how is it shaping the turbulence or smoothness of your life today? Are you caught up in the messy short term, or are you looking out at the horizon? Take a moment today to really chew on that, and maybe try stretching that timeline out just a little bit further. Thanks so much for joining me, and keep your thoughts clear.